Yeah. Hola, and welcome to Power and
Wait,
Perspective.
what's the name of the show?
I
Hold
am
on.
Power in
Okay.
Perspective. I was trying to send Jacob a gift. Jacob, I was trying to send you a gift. So now I'm all discombobulated. But I am April, and we changed everything. This is Aaron.
Nailed it. No, it's the other
Uh,
direction.
no, damn it. This is Aaron, and we're here to reframe conversations with humor and empathy.
You're really switching stuff up today.
Is empathy and
Yeah.
humor? Oh.
So first, let me apologize. I lied to everybody at the end of last week's episode. Um, we are talking about education today for a series of reasons that basically come down to me not being able to do enough show prep.
I don't know why you need to do show prep. I just show up. Oh, look, Jacob wants 2 awards. Yeah, I was trying to give you GIF awards. So I'm going to have to give it to you, like, symbolically. Jacob, here's your award.
I'm not even sure what you're talking about, but I haven't seen what you gave to him.
Because he was first.
Yeah.
I was going to give him, like a reward.
Like a
Award.
trophy?
Yeah, like a trophy.
But it was going to be a GIF?
But
I'm very confused. Or is this unrelated to the
GIF?
GIF?
No, a GIF of a trophy.
Oh,
a trophy
okay.
GIF.
Right. Got it. I'm with you now.
I feel like this makes total sense. Why can you not understand me? Yeah, today we're switching it up. We're pinch hitting. We like to keep you on your toes, though, so that's how we roll. We're just like, this is how life really works, and so, like, you gotta, like, keep with it. He likes expensive. Can I give you expensive mead like
No,
this?
don't.
Here.
No, he doesn't.
Or
He's trolling
or
me.
through a gift.
He's trolling me. Last time I gave him expensive mead, he mixed it with cheap champagne, and I almost had a coronary. Yeah.
I don't know anything about mead, but I find that hilarious.
Not
I know a little.
not a kind man. Not a kind man.
Yeah, today we're talking about education instead. We'll get back to how to make us. I actually have no idea what we were talking about.
Well, so we were kind of loosey goosey here, obviously to start. But after I started reading, I came across a lot of the same themes, which happens to be probably very convenient for your place in the education space. That more people are talking about social educate or social emotional learning around the country,
well,
and that they're
yeah, that's been a thing.
well, but it seems like it's ramped up and been
I think COVID ramped it up.
yeah, a super important part. You already did. I mean, you can't turn back time.
Yeah.
But you're being positive anyway. It's fine. It'll be fine. It'll probably be fine.
It's gonna be okay. Everybody's gonna be all right. Okay. Yeah, I think that our circumstances of today have really amped up the need for social emotional learning. And let me be fully transparent. When it first came across, I'm a different human, just so you all know. Those of you who don't know me, or didn't know me, or now know me, or don't know me now but knew me before, any of those situations, I'm a very different human now than I was. So before I tell you what I'm about to say, when social emotional learning first came up as like the next thing, I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this is so dumb. Like, okay, like I teach you to be like, point to your, like, how do you feel on this chart of your emotions? Now I have to teach emotions. Are you kidding me? Like, I thought it was so dumb, guys. But now I do not. Now I know people have emotions and that they need to be taught how to be in touch with those emotions and use those emotions. Had I had that education as a child, maybe I wouldn't been so dismissive
Savage.
of social emotional education. So I think, yeah, and because kids are stuck at home and mental health in general is being brought up a lot,
Yeah.
which leads into the conversation of social emotional learning. Do you feel like you received any of that in school, social emotional
No,
learning?
I don't know. I don't know that I got much of it kind of at all. Like I don't know.
Mm.
It's something I've
If you're
always been
talking
kind of
about in
behind
our
the. Yeah,
household,
just in general.
yeah,
Yeah.
not so much. Yeah. Yeah, we're behind the curve.
Yeah. Which is definitely
I
I
don't
think it's a hindrance at some point. Like it's not a hindrance to get you through maybe college and stuff, but as you grow into like life, when life becomes more
being
about living your life and less about trying to get through your your 15-year plan that you've had since you popped out of the womb or whatever. But
yeah,
yeah, definitely behind the ball, I would say.
that's where it hits. That's where it hits. That's where a lot of times midlife crisis
Oh
comes
yeah.
in. Is when you it is that's usually when you find out you're behind the curve. And when I say midlife crisis, it usually happens around midlife, but it's like you said, when you're at that point where if you had a plan to, go to college, get married, have 2.5 kids, have a house, and now you're like, okay, so now
Yeah.
what? Right? So you have a midlife crisis. A midlife crisis is a crisis of identity because you do not know your identity, and you do not know your identity because you do not know yourself,
Yeah. Well, and
which
goals
leads.
get harder the older you get.
What do you mean?
I think like large scale goals, like having that
Like making them or having them?
making them. Well, I mean, there's more that you've like already committed to, and I mean, obviously it's not impossible, but you're less as we age, we get kind of less flexible in the kind of risks that we can take and everything else that it seems like it's more difficult to and we don't dream, I would say, as big the older we get. So setting those goals like the go to college and get married and the big like landmark stuff that it's hard to keep going on that train.
I would argue that that is societal construct, like marked stuff. Would you say it was like the
Like
mark?
landmarks,
What'd you call
like the
landmark?
landmark
Golly,
goals.
golly. Yes, yeah. That's societal construct landmark goals. I would have to say that I can make big goals way easier now and make big goals now and go after them now better than when I was younger because now I'm making my goals and not the goals expected of me.
That's fair.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they mean more. The goals mean more now. Like has a purpose. Like it's behind my why. And again, let's all remember that I'm a very different person now than I was a year
Well, you
ago.
did just say behind my why, so it's a pretty froofy.
Oh, you don't like my
No, I
jargon?
mean it's fine, but you said it,
Yeah,
so I have to
I did
address it.
say it because, well, no, I would say behind your why is in business, from anywhere from business to your personal life. It's while it's jargony, it's still
Yeah,
true.
I
Yeah, like
I'm not gonna disagree with you. So
I'm a, I'm a, I'm a Godala. What is that part of your brain?
amygdala,
Oh, sorry,
amygdala.
amygdala. I just can't
I'm glad I
read.
let you go through it. That was fun. Um,
Yes, yeah, they're teaching kids like important things. But are you ready to get to my disagreement with all of this social emotional
yeah,
learning? As I just said, I was a teacher. Well, those of you may not know, I was a teacher. I've been in education for over 20 years. I was a teacher most of those years. Um, and I am not socially emotionally whole. I've never had social emotional education myself, and I am being given this curriculum or these directives to provide social emotional learning to children to help make them whole people, whole little people, and I'm not even a whole person myself, right?
do you think that's
Like,
common among
oh
teachers?
gosh, yeah. and you can see it among teachers because of the burnout and the frustration. All of that comes, in my personal opinion. I was trying not to say that. It's not my opinion. It's fact. Darn it.
That's a red flag. I'm
Um,
out. I'm not listening.
it's fact that teachers again are at a spot where they don't know themselves. Teaching is relational. Teaching is a relational occupation. If you do not take teaching as a relational occupation, you are burnt out, frustrated, like think you chose living for weekends and holidays, think you chose the wrong occupation because it's relational. But you're having, again, anybody, it's like when they say you can't, someone else can't love you till you love yourself.
Yeah, something
Again,
along those lines.
very cliche, but very true. You can't relate with other people until you can relate with yourself. And you can't relate with yourself until you know yourself.
Well, I mean,
This is my rant.
It could easily be argued that relating to yourself doesn't necessarily make relating to other people easier.
Do you relate to yourself
Well,
well?
I mean, if you look at I don't mean for me, because I have all of the issues, so that's not even I can't even draw comparisons.
Well, I
there,
know,
but
but
like when we were talking about when we were doing the episode on autism, talking about how difficult it is to relate, but those people are very internal and aware
of themselves. Yeah, they just don't have external relationship. I would argue that they might not be as internally aware. So I think relationships require that emotional connection or like exchange,
Yeah.
right? Where in autism, that's one of the things is that you're emotionally, I don't know what exactly it is because Ayla and I were talking about autism the other day. Ayla's my daughter, and there's no test for autism. There's no scanning of your brain. Your brain doesn't look different. It's just behaviors, which is so weird to me. Anyway, so like they are they connected with their true emotions? Are their emotions stunted or is there a connection block? But regardless, I think an emotional exchange is not necessarily high on their list of priorities.
No, yeah.
Or
well, and yeah, just like you said, everybody has
ability.
everybody has needs, so no matter what it
Yeah.
is, there's going to be give and take like that for some kind of productivity, be it intellectual
Yeah.
or emotional or anything.
Most relationships thrive better under authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
absolutely.
Yeah. And authenticity is because authenticity creates or vulnerability cannot happen without authenticity. And authenticity cannot happen without knowing your authentic self. And a lot of us, especially teachers, operate on a task-based system of like, okay, we do this, like we have a calendar and a schedule and the system is set up that way. This is not teachers' fault. This is how the system is set up. Is you stand up there and I taught third grade math where we literally had to read verbatim out of this book. We stood up there and read verbatim out of this math book exactly what we were supposed to say to the students.
That's silly.
I'm like, you could literally hire a monkey to do
Yeah.
this. Like this is why education frustrated me so much. I'm like, I am serving no value here, people. I have many degrees I paid a lot of money for, and you're telling me exactly what to do and how to do it, and it's not working. You're telling me what behavior management system to use. It's not working. You tell me exactly what program to use. Not working. I've been in so many schools where behavior is a gigantic issue. And again, I think it's because nobody is relating to these kids because it's all like system based. Like we need to control if we can just control every little piece. I used to even think this about my classroom. If I could just control every little aspect of everything, everything will run like a machine, right? Like it'll be like and we'll all be good and happy and things will go well. But I don't know if you know this or not, but people don't work like that.
You learned that children aren't machines.
I learned children aren't machines.
It took way too long for you to learn, I might argue.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, that is probably. It takes me way too long to learn most lessons in life. Let's be real.
so, do you know? And I couldn't find much of anything on this, but do you know what it's like around the world as far as the environment for social emotional learning?
So what I know through my research, I'm doing research because I'm putting on a summit for soul-led educators. Stay tuned. And I will plug it in
I
future
was gonna say
episodes.
that was the worst shameless plug that's ever been.
Anyway, but I had to do a lot of research for people to speak at the summit,
Yeah.
right? And and I was first of all shocked at how many people are doing this kind of work about, and not all of it necessarily directed towards teachers, which is where I think the conversation needs to start. There are some directed towards students as well, but about mindfulness and authenticity and a place of realism. I think a lot of social emotional learning still is not enough. It's not cutting it. It's pick this circle, like I said, pick this emotion. How are you feeling? But again, it's like very task based. Okay, we have this worksheet today about happy feelings. Here's everybody's worksheet. Draw a picture of your happy
Well,
feelings,
but
right?
good.
Go ahead.
So, but you're in a position where you have, and it's like with anything new. Like if you look back at how things are discovered, you have people who have no experience in something, trying to teach children
Yes,
who have no
and that's what it
experience in
is.
it. So it's gonna take. I mean, it's clearly gonna take. It takes generations to fix that kind of problem.
It does, but if we keep starting the conversation at get it at the kids, get it at the kids, it'll never be authentically taught because you're never going to have teachers.
Well, you're gonna have
So
the
they're
kids will over time. The next generation of
the
teachers will
students
be
are never
more
going to
in
get it
touch
because
with the
they're never
language.
more, but not that much. It won't be exponential because they're being taught by teachers who aren't authentically teaching it. You know what I mean? Like this is why, don't kill me, people. This is where I think, for example, Common Core, the essence of Common Core is a lot more holistic than task based, which I feel is more effective. Right now, social emotional learning is still very task based and not, it's going to hit some people. Like you said, it's going to hit some people. Some people are going to get it, but most of the student population is not going to get it. It's not something they're going to carry forward into their life. It's a worksheet that I did in Miss Jones's class at 2 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah, well, I mean, but and what I'm saying is that when you look at how things develop like that, you go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3
Yeah.
to 4 to 8 to 12
But
to 40, and it escalates, but you don't see that for an extended period of time because of that, because everybody's kind of learning together. And it's going to take some time, but even just doing it, like saying that it's inadequate is saying it's mostly inadequate because we don't have a level of adequacy. Like it doesn't exist in that instance.
I would disagree in the fact that because I know the education system and where they go, I know their steps, the procedures that they're going to take with this, right? And every PD a teacher gets is going to be from the place of what can you do for the students? What can you do for the students? What can you do for the students? And again, this snowballs into just a state of overwhelm. So whereas again, the teachers are never going to connect with this curriculum, and never is a big word, probably not never, but it's going to take something different than what the education system normally does.
Yeah.
What the education system normally doesn't what have you ever heard like this is a great United States based, this is such a great education system, we should model this because they're so fabulous and forever like doing marvelous things? It's very rare. And if you do, like Ron Clark Academy is very relational, very teacher, like focused on empowering teachers. Sorry, I just ranted and went off the question. I told you people I was gonna get ranty.
Well, no, I mean, and I'm just saying that there that as people who are discussing it right now, to allow space for grace in this process, because and if you really think about it, like these are
Who are
things
we giving the
that
grace to?
everybody, everybody involved, because I mean it could be argued that largely children should also be learning this stuff at home, not actively, you know what I mean? So there's a theoretical responsibility there. So we have potentially just a large societal issue where none of us are in touch with anything,
Oh,
and it's there's
absolutely.
no way that, like, and you talk about your experience with state schools and how the process works, but it's going to be that until it's not. Like, that's through your lifetime or up to where we are now, and it has to start changing. And that's where I'm saying allow some grace. Like, if like anything is better than nothing, and if we attack it too much, that it so much that it goes away, or that we try to put it in a different place, like saying it needs to be done at home because we can't do it sufficiently in schools, then it's a step in the wrong direction is all I mean.
Okay, I give grace to the teachers trying. I give grace to the social workers and the counselors trying. I do not give grace to probably whoever brought it into the system. Let me tell you why. Because I know the system, and it's because, oh my gosh, look, mental health is down and blah. Okay, now we need to create the system. It's to look good. We need to make sure we look like we're supporting students. And that's a lot of times why things don't work in the education system. I've been in administration. In administration, I've been at two different schools in administration. It was 100% all about looking good. Looking good. And there was never conversations um, about supporting teachers in a social emotional level. It was all about what are the teachers doing for the kids? Why can't the teachers do more for the kids? What if the teachers do this or this, or the teachers aren't doing enough? That's why it's not working, because the teachers aren't doing enough. And so it's all about what can the teachers do and looking good. So that's why I give it little grace, because I know that a lot of the intention behind it in this level up here, the intention behind it is not
Well,
authentic.
I mean, feelings like that, like actions like that, that's why these people are elected. Like, that's why it's the whole process to represent. But as a result of that, always, and this is always with the state, and we can get controversial from here if we wanted to, but the state always drags. So we all as a society have to be having those conversations together for it to fully incentivize up to our elected. So they're always going to act in that way. Like, we feel we're
Oh
supposed
yeah.
to do this because they're not real people. And
Yeah,
that's a fucked up thing to say, and I have to take
I
it
know what
back,
you mean though.
but that they're not acting from their values. They're acting from in a position of an elected official. So if they see that and say that I have to do this, then I mean
And I get that. But
that's why good business
look
is
at the
better than state, but
exactly, but they
for
were
that
raised
reason.
in the same
No,
system.
yeah.
This is like you said, this is systematic as a whole country. And the reason why I'm so passionate about education is because one of the commonalities that we all have in the United States, most of us have, is that we've went through the education system. So if you don't like what you see in society, you can probably look at the education
Yeah.
system and find fault. And that's why I think it needs to start with the education system. Yeah, and I think the education system created that system where this guy needs to look good because he needs to be elected because this looks down. You know what I mean? It's all connected.
Well, that part's just competition. Always. You'll always want to keep your job, and you'll always, not you personally, but you'll always be able to
I, I
find somebody to throw under a train to keep your job. Like, that's
yeah.
human, maybe American nature, but
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as saying human nature,
I
but I
think it
get it. I
is.
would say
I
American
think
nature.
fundamentally it is. I mean, I don't know if
I think
anybody.
survival
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
survival, it's because we put too high a value, like it would for survival because you value your life, so we put too high a value on monetary things, on achievements, on status, things like
Things like
that, and
food
that's
and
why it's human nature.
having a
No,
roof.
not food. No, because you can get a job, and if you're not able to be authentic in your job, right? There's somewhere where you can be authentic. Trust me, I know, right? So I don't think it has to do with survival. It has to do with the things that we value, the status, the money, the
When
power,
things are, yeah,
things like
there's a lot of difference here than some places. I won't say the whole rest of the world, but that we.
yeah. Well, Monique asked about Finland. So Finland schools, there's a couple things with Finland schools. One, uh, I've read some articles where the data is skewed, but what is good, really good about Finland systems is, what do they value? Their teachers. They put a lot of value in their teachers. It is hard to get a teaching job. It's like being a doctor or a lawyer. Here, any I'm going to offend people. But any Joe Schmo monkey can become a teacher. Like, really, you can. And there, it's hard. It's sort of like back east. Back east, it's hard to get a teaching job, because people stay there till they die. And guess what? Their education systems are
Yeah.
better. Like, because it's a competitive thing. It's competitive to get into a teaching school back east as well. It's a higher caliber of people that you're getting in the system. But also, Monique, you have to think of Finland is very, what do we call that, Aaron? They're just all the same.
Oh,
All the
they're
kids are
more
the same.
culturally unified. They're all Finnish. They're all
Yeah,
Finnish kids.
they're all Finnish kids. They're all like from
Not
the
and not
same
all
kind
of
of,
them, but a larger
yeah,
majority.
a way more majority than we have here in America. Um, so that's something to consider too when you look at the Finland
Well, I
system.
mean, I think, and it's probably really screwed up to say, but I think that our cultural diversity does provide more uh, complication when you try to integrate all of this stuff together and try to work it all out.
But let me tell you, if we used this diversity instead of trying to make it all the same and label, they want to put you in a box and label you and make you fit a certain place and make you as same as they can. I want my students to line up in a straight line facing forward, quiet. I want my students to sit in desks, quiet. You know what I mean? I want them all to be the same because it makes things easier. They're easier to control. If instead we had a system that embraced the diversity, and I don't mean that means chaos ensues, but we really do try to make our students as same as possible. But if instead we had a system embrace diversity, imagine how miraculous and awesome we would beat Finland out of the water because of that
Well, but it's
diversity.
such a unique thing. Like it's never. It's these are the sorts of things that just haven't been done. And if you look at the comparison you just made and talking about control and stuff, and I'll go back to what we were talking about beforehand about it being unintended consequences. And despite my abject cynicism toward all things government, if you look at how that education system developed in Finland, that like more likely they all have similar goals and they're all part of the community and stuff. So the challenges that we're facing in the diversity is that the education system as the world has always known it is not adequate to deal with these
Correct.
sorts of
Agreed.
things.
Agreed. So there has to be big changes made, and I don't think that our country, can't speak for other, I don't think our country is ready for that.
Well, the government's not going to do it
Um,
because it requires a lot of risk.
yeah, it requires risk and it requires, yeah, monetary time, yeah, a lot. Um, Katie says growth mindsets are buzzwords here. What say you? So I think, were we just talking about this at the beginning of the show or before the show? I can't remember.
About what?
I can't remember. That buzzwords are like growth mindset and mindfulness, things like that. Yes, they're jargony words, but they're also still true. A growth mindset just means you think that you can get better. That's it. That's all a growth mindset is. And that's legit. Like, it's important for you to be able to believe that you think that you can get better, you can learn. If you don't know it, you can learn it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's what growth mindset is. And and unfortunately, I don't know what the answer is for jargony words, but I think, yeah, jargony words get thrown around so much that they start to become a turnoff, right? But they're just words. They're just words to describe
Well, I
concepts.
mean, in our world of meme culture, there'll be less divide on that going forward. Like the more time passes, the more in touch we'll be with those kinds of jargony words because they'll become memey, and
And well, and they won't be
yeah,
jargony.
they'll be celebrated as opposed to second guessed. Because we come from a time where basically if somebody made up a phrase for something, it meant it was bullshit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
that's
Yes.
fading over time.
Into
That
the
idea.
yeah. Oh, I know why. I know what I said earlier. I think it was before the show. I said connect to your why.
No, that was we were hot for that.
That during the show.
Yeah,
Oh, whatever.
we were hot for that.
Let's see. Steven says, "What can our employees do?" And looking good reflects every business everywhere, which is true.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's why I said our schools just represent our society at large. Our schools are preparing our children for the society that we see now, right? If you do not like what you see in society now, the school systems have to change.
Well, yeah,
I guess they could. I guess they could change the other way around, but that's not likely.
well, and we saw. I mean, and like we were discussing, that all of this, our education system is built on the foundation of training factory workers because that's what the country needed. So as time progresses, as our
Eight
society
bazillion
changes,
years ago.
yeah. But I mean, like I said, government is always the lag behind. You saw it with everything, even racial equality and everything else. Like it's the government who's always last and always doing the
Yeah.
most harm in being last. And
Yeah.
that, I mean, I don't see how that can change at all, like from a very meaningful, fundamental space, because those people are trying to act, even the if we're talking about honest, always 100% of the time politicians, that these are people who are trying to represent a large swath of the country, and you can't do that effectively, like, and take big risks because you're
Well, and they
aggregating.
would come, and they came from the same mindset
Yeah,
that we all grew up with. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So while they think they're acting in everyone's best interest, it's because it's always been in their best interest, not because it's progressive in the best interest. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, communities only communities know what they need.
Yeah. Oh, now we're back to local
Well, I will
government.
always be that. Yeah, I can't. I'll never be able to avoid that. Education system parents are on the biggest influencers over children. I'm fortunate to work with parents, but schools are controlled and fill in the gaps, so the pressure to do it all is intense for educators. Yeah, and the school I
Well,
was reading about in New York, the hold on, I want to get this right because it's a pretty intense name. The New York's Business Technology Early College High School, which I think is a like a technical academy. They started their SEL program last year, I guess, and how they responded to the working from home stuff is they started holding parent workshops and made sure that staff were available to answer parent questions and concerns, and had that a proactive system set up to reach out to parents,
this is very schooly thing to do. Yeah.
which
We had
I
that.
mean, and it makes sense, right? Was it
Did they
not?
say how many parents came or
No, it did
attended?
not.
Yeah, because I worked for a virtual school. I had parent workshops. I had like one-on-ones. We had parent advocacy. We had a lot of stuff for parents. Hardly any parents ever came. But
Oh,
do you know
that's
how many
sad.
parent complaint phone calls I got a day?
400.
Got lot, got all the phone calls. But yeah, it's really hard to get. Parents are busy. In their defense, they're
No, we're
busy,
yeah.
and I get it when they say that my kid is yours now during this time. It's your problem. I get it. I get it. And we always say in education, we focus on the things we can control, and we cannot control their home life.
No.
We can't. We cannot control their home life, but we can provide as much, make as much support available. We can't even force them
Yeah.
to come in. But I always say this is why I started changing teachers are important. But when you change a kid and they go home, for example, the smoking unit's always big. Um, because they're like, my dad smokes. And then like I get irritated emails about their kid going home and preaching preaching like about smoking. Recycling's another big one. They bring it home. They're like, why don't we recycle? We need to recycle. I'm going to start recycling. and so kids can have a small impact on their home life versus the other way
Yeah.
around too.
What about, I mean, and going back, just to revert back here, like that kind of thing is evidence that the way that schools are doing it do work, and that they do give, just talking about it, like just actually bringing it up and talking about it is impacting things that we aren't necessarily going to see maybe even in our
For a long,
lifetime.
yeah.
Yeah, and almost certainly not in
Well,
our
yeah,
lifetime.
and that's the problem is that done effectively and done authentically and done, we don't have to do it the same way we've always done it, where it takes a bazillion years to have an effect. We can do something better and bigger and more impactful. Again, we don't have to do it how it's always been done, and that's what's happening. That's how it's being introduced. Social emotional learning has been being talked about since frick, I don't know, I was teaching middle school, I think. So like, I don't know, a really long time ago, like over 10 years ago. Probably when right after Common Core came out, which is also a really long time ago. So like I just think that we can do something bigger and better. Um, Monique is talking about the curriculum though. So this is super interesting. That Finland, they do kindergarten outdoors. They have more choices in their education as they progress through the school years. Again, I'm a very different person than I used to be. When somebody used, I hope she never watches this because she'll know who she is, but her son was in kindergarten and she's like, dude, leave my kindergartner alone. Like, he's a kid, he's a baby. Like, he doesn't need to read right now. Stop putting so much pressure. Well, I was a kindergarten teacher and my kids read. And we had critical thinking and so I was like, no, these are the standards and they can live up to them. If we have high expectations, they can live up to those expectations, right? And that's how I always ran my classroom. But now, so at what cost do these expectations come, right? If I know everything, but I'm not socially, emotionally whole, does it matter? Well, in our current world, right? It doesn't matter because then I could just be a CEO and like make bazillions of dollars and then drink myself to death,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I feel like there's always that option.
That's a big jump from the kindergartner who can read to that. But you get what I mean. Like I now see the validity, Monique, of Finland's approach, that it should be much more holistic. Maybe you guys know, it's called Wismer. There's a holistic educational approach that has schools. It starts with a W, and I keep forgetting the name, but I think that is a good start as well. I was talking to my middle school students whenever I had them last, and we were talking about we were talking about if they thought PE should be required. Like everybody should have to take PE, and the pros and the cons, how kids aren't going to ever exercise if they're never taught to exercise, and things like that. And we got into, what about choice and other things, like should I have choice? And they were talking about how maybe like we should be taught the basics, like kindergarten through 5th grade, but then we should start to and this was the kids talking. I was guiding, but I was not pushing. That we should focus on the positives. So you have a kid who brings home the report card, right? He has an A in math and a D in English. You're like, oh my gosh, we need to do more English. You're going to go to English summer school. We have an English support program. English, 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 English. Instead of being like, dude, you're a freaking genius in math. Let's capitalize on that ish. Let's do more math. How much math can you do? You think you could do this math or this math or this math, right? Yeah. So what if that was our focus as we progress through, what kind of things would happen?
Well, I think from what I understand from the people that I've looked into in the biographies and stuff, but that when in the home, like a lot of people that are very successful in trades and other things had that when they saw that strength, and like you develop hobbies around it, you lean into it very
Yes.
aggressively. And this is, I mean, outside of the education system, but at home, you know what I mean, where it would be like that. It's like, hey, let's go do math bees, if that's a thing. I want it to be, if it's not a thing. But yeah, I mean, to have that support.
It is a thing.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, but then we talk about this all the time, and that what communities does that typically happen in? Higher
Yeah, which is
socioeconomic
true.
status.
Yeah. Well, so
And now we're again perpetuating poverty and
I want to get
non-education.
back. I want to get back. I want to go back to the SE. What is it? SEL stuff.
Social
Yeah,
emotional
yeah.
SEL. Yeah.
It's that's hard to get out. So social emotional learning. Um, so I'm just gonna go to
It's a
SEL.
lot of shushes like
So what does it take? Who is the person? Who are the people that will? Because you're talking about needing to be a radical restructure, and that is not going to come from our structure of governance. Because it, I mean, ultimately the education system is a government program, and it's always going to be run, when it's run by the government, it will be run by the government. Like, that's not,
yeah.
there's no separating that. So
Yeah.
if that's how the government works and the government makes changes, who is it that's responsible? Is it just simply like simple activism, getting out and us having conversations like this, or protesting, or like you're trying to do, get involved and start programs to educate educators? Like, where does the big change eventually come from? Like, what is the place that you want to or expect to see it from?
So optimistically, I would love to see a change on a school level. But again, I follow a lot of teachers' accounts, and there's a lot of hate on administration, a lot of hate, a lot of shade thrown. Administrators are under more pressure to, again, that look good and perceived and following these directives. So there's not a lot of wiggle room in
Well, they
administration.
have all the
So
they have
this
all the
is my
same milestones, but less control. So
correct.
it's literally just
Yeah.
like, well, here's what you have to do, and
Yeah. Basically, yeah. And there's a little more leniency in charter schools, but I've been with charter school systems now, and I noticed the bigger a charter school system gets, the more bureaucratic it gets, the more just like a school system it
who'd have
gets.
thought?
Um, all right. So smaller charter schools do have a lot more flexibility. They are run under the charter system, but they just have to produce results. How they get to those results is very independent. Um, but we're not. A lot of people don't make big changes like that. Anyway, my theory is this. This is my plan and my theory that we can change the system from the inside out. Teachers are passionate. Teachers teach for a reason. We all know they don't teach for the money. Um, and they don't teach for the summers off, as some of you might believe, because you don't actually get the summer off, first of all. Ask how many teachers um, don't work on the summer. You're either literally working on your classroom, you're like, oh, now is the perfect time to revamp everything I've ever done. La. Or they have side gigs. I wonder what the percentage is. I would bet at least 50% of teachers have a side gig of some kind because they don't get paid
Yeah,
enough.
there was an article that uh, crap, and I'm gonna forget what it was, but they were throwing shade on teachers in Arizona, I think, because they had side jobs to get the things that they like, the like boats or whatever that they wanted, and there were like governmental, like politicians actually talking crap about them and how they're not focused enough and how they spend too much time doing these things to get these things that they want. It was a few years ago, but it was absolutely
But that's the
insane.
problem.
It wasn't, yeah, it was
But that's the
insane.
kind, and that's the kind of perspective that a lot of people have. That teacher's life should be teaching. There's a very skewed perspective, and there's a lot of expectation on teachers. But my point is, teachers stay teachers in spite of all
Yeah.
of that. In spite of all of that, and for a reason. So they're the passionate ones. I fully believe that we can change the education system, grassroots effort from the inside out. I think that teachers can take these, first of all, work on themselves. healed people heal people, hurt people. So first, their work is for themselves to heal themselves, become a whole, complete human, authentic being, right? Then bring those practices into their classroom, but within the allotted structure. This is what I'm doing next year, BTW. I'm not breaking any rules. I'm not changing any systems. Um, but I will take a much more holistic approach to my science teaching. And I think if once we can get teachers to make those tweaks and then teachers create programs and then schools buy programs, I think that is the only way that it's going to happen. Because, like you said, it's not going to come from the top
No,
down.
there has to
It's
be
just not.
risks taken. So you think
Yeah.
teachers
Yeah.
are the ones who ultimately have to take the risks?
Yeah. Yeah. And because once you make those, it's not a lot of risk, first of all, for them, right? If they can work within the system, there's a little risk. I might get in trouble next year. I hope my new boss isn't watching this. But like, yeah, I might get in trouble. But, um, but not if I produce results, right? So I wholly also believe wholly that this will produce results. This will make better students and better people, and everybody's going to be like, okay, what's this Janie doing over there? Like, what? How are you getting all that to happen and work? And people are going to want to know about it, right? And then it'll spread like that.
Fair enough. That's fair.
That's my
Yeah.
plan. Pass it on, people. Pass it
So
on.
Steven asked an interesting
I,
question. What do you think about like rate my teacher or rate my professor sites?
so I like to look at them, but I think they're ridiculous. They're just like rate. You know what? I don't think they help or harm. I think it's just like Yelp. You're gonna get the people who either really hate them or really love them, um, answering them. And guys, again, I'm going to offend people. There are a lot of shitty teachers, guys. There are a lot of shitty teachers. And again, I don't blame them. I don't hate on them. They've given up. I once, guys, this is how much I gave up. I I think I was like 8.5 months pregnant. I was given a class of eighth graders, all of the failing eighth graders, every eighth grader who was failing in one classroom, right? And I'm supposed to turn their lives around. Right? I tried everything. I was like, we watched inspirational movies, we watched documentaries, we journaled, we did this. They were big fat a-holes. They flipped me off every day. They cursed at me like there was a chair thrown. like and finally the dean wouldn't come in. Finally I just sat there. I would play a video and I wouldn't even look up because I couldn't. I couldn't even look up. I don't even want to see. I don't want to see what's happening. That's where I was.
Yeah.
These are teachers every day where you're like, I I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. I forgot what the question was, but I don't blame them.
It was about rate your
Oh,
professor.
rate my
Yeah.
professors. Yeah. So you have those, people going on there saying my professor sucks, and they probably do. They literally probably do.
Well, and
Yes.
I find a lot of value in the Yelp comparison because I use that differential that the way that people discuss it because it's not 1 star 5 stars whatever, but you have the people
Yeah.
discussing their issues,
Reasons.
and you can find relatable information in there. Like it's I think it would be helpful if it's used right. I'm not sure that anybody uses anything right, but
But also you have children using these things.
that is
I
true.
had
Yeah,
one kid report me because he said I was racist.
that tracks.
I'm like, what? What? Was I dating a student? No, Aaron, I was not dating a student. Yeah, but that's the kind of stuff. It's like you can take it with a grain of salt because a lot of times angry kids are. If you had my own kid write a review about my parenting, some days you're gonna get my mom is the best mom in the world, and some days you're gonna get she's the meanest human ever, and she probably should be arrested for abuse.
And the point is that both of those things are true.
Well, I should not be arrested for abuse, but I can be the meanest mom ever. Sorry, I think we both read it. I went to read at the same time. I think they're started there. I often set my goals and worked my way back rather than how to get there, started there. Yeah. Um, Bill, that's actually a thing in education. It's called backwards planning. No. What do they call it? There's an acronym because there's an acronym for everything. But yeah, set your goals and plan back from there. I don't know what you're speaking in reference to,
I'm
but
very bad at that. I seem to do just fine with the opposite. It just means that I start a bunch of things, and then when I find potential in something, then I follow it.
yes, it's like throwing. That's what I say. Like throwing spaghetti at a wall, see what sticks.
Yeah, I mean that's
I'm
a
down.
saying. Like that's
Yeah,
a widely accepted
but you can.
colloquialism.
But I can
Oh,
visualize
okay.
it.
Yeah.
I didn't say I made it
Oh, I
up.
thought you said that.
I didn't,
It's
no,
like
I
I
didn't say I
always
invented.
say. It's like I always say.
And I just want to say, Katie, you will totally use You don't use geometry. I use geometry.
Yeah, I definitely would be upset. There's a lot of like math stuff that even throwing shade on it, you never really know what kind of position you'll be in, and I'd rather be prepared
Do
for
you use
something.
calculus?
I never learned calculus, so I'm not sure.
Oh, it's horrible.
I
took
escaped the education system. I didn't
I
drop
took it
out,
like
but I
7
escaped.
times.
I probably would have done fine. I wouldn't have done their homework. I just would have learned the concept and move on with my life because that's what I did in school.
And that's another thing is if we want to continue to talk about education in a later thing, but higher education is 100 times, I think, worse. And I think it's just 100 times worse because of how useless it is and how much money it is and why would you not want your people to have access to higher education? Why would you want it to be so what is that
Prohibitive.
prohibitive? Thank you. I need someone just to walk around with me all day. I should get a
If
parrot
that
remembers
pays,
words.
I'm on it. You won't even have to like push me around in a stroller or anything with like a.
Tell me remember
We don't have to do that. I can just like hang out. It's cool.
a bonnet.
Yeah. That's the kind of job
Like
I
that
need. I would love
cartoon.
to. I need to be a speechwriter. That's what I really should do with my life. That'd be
Oh, I
horrible.
told the sage that's what she should do. Yeah, higher education sucks butt too.
Well,
I
and
can tell you.
and
I
it,
paid a lot
I was
for it.
part of my, and when I was like we weren't really sure what 100% we were going to talk about. I found a study that for educations.com, it doesn't sound right, but whatever. It was a copy paste, so we're good. That in the last 2 years, Canada and UK have overtaken the US and study abroad destination spots.
Interesting.
And that we're falling off, and that the number one factor for students, which apparently hasn't changed over the years, is job opportunities.
Yep. Yep.
And then the two after that are cost of living and the host country's language and culture. So nothing about the quality of education. Nothing about the quality of education.
Interesting. Because it's crap. You just pay for it's just money. It's just money. That's
Yeah,
all
the
it is.
priorities
You
are
can
just
learn
kafucked.
whatever you want. Oh, you muted. I can't hear you.
What? Can you hear? You can't hear me?
Oh, now I can hear
Okay.
you now. What did you say just a
I
second
said
ago?
the priorities are just kafuckered.
Oh yeah, I didn't hear that.
And I think there's I think there's value to party school. I think party school is like the apex of SEL, right? Like that's how we learn to be with our peer groups and relate to
It's
people.
all about learning. That's all it is about. It's about learning about yourself. That's it. That's all life is. Literally, all life is about learning about yourself.
That's
Learning who you
that's
are.
deep.
Thank you. I'm a very deep person now.
I don't have words. I don't have words. That's what we should be. This is what should
be
we
very
we should be pushing for this party school thing, by the way. Like making party elementary schools and party middle schools.
Like they go there.
Yeah.
It's the rich schools. Yeah. Have you seen like they'll have like a 5th grade dance? People show up in freaking limos.
No, that sounds insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the rich schools. They're already party schools. You got
Well, they
beat.
got-
You got beat.
No,
to it.
but I mean we should start a movement where all schools are party schools. Like that's
Yeah.
the movement. That's how we're going to change things.
I'm trying to make a song.
But that's about as sexy as I can imagine getting it.
Party
Like to
schools,
sell
how
it.
to party. It's how to sell
Yeah.
school, make them party
Yeah.
schools.
But no, and I mean, you make the point you make is good that it's socioeconomic differences because the priorities are different. Like for some people,
Yeah.
like learning can't even be a priority because you have to work.
No. Maslow's hierarchy of
Yeah.
needs. The man knew stuff.
Turns out.
And I know it too. You know why I know it? Because of my education.
Oh, I know it because sometimes
That's
I
what
wake
I-
up hungry
that's
and I go, "Oh, I should get some food."
Yeah, but you don't know it's Maslow's hierarchy of education or hierarchy of needs.
Well, yeah, I mean, but at that point, what's the purpose?
There is no purpose.
Accomplished everything
I
need
paid a
to.
lot of money to know that. Okay.
That's fair. I won't take that away from you. I won't take that away from you at all.
Look at that. You didn't even know what we were going to talk about, and I could rant for an hour.
Well, I figured you could rant for an hour. It would be a matter of if it's just you ranting or trying to find some balance and structure and cooperative participation stuff.
Balance schmalance.
But yeah, thanks everybody for putting up with us today. Kind of loosey goosey.
I'm a fan of Lucy Goosey.
Next week for sure we have a guest, and we're going to be talking about divorce and not
yeah.
parental, but
From the dad's perspective.
yeah, paternal
custody.
rights.
Paternal rights, yes.
Um,
Oh, what's in the mug? I have tea. It is a this might be TMI. It is a colon cleanse tea. I'm doing this 14-day something. I don't know. I just bought it at the farmer's market. It's all natural. It's all natural. So, I'm going to Hawaii. I need to I got a pooch going and I don't know how to fix it. So, that's what's in the cup.
yeah. Thanks.
She'll never
Thanks
ask
for
again.
asking. Yeah, I weigh. So we'll be talking about kind of the custody system, divorce, paternal rights, and kind of how you're screwed if you're a father in the system, at least by default. Not always, but not
Yeah, how it happens a lot. Yeah, it's sad. Also, Monique, yes, I just bought some ghee, so I will be putting that in all the things.
Put it in your coffee.
Yeah. Our guest is a dude.
Oh, are we assuming? I didn't know.
No, his name is. He's got a pretty awesome name. It sounds famous. He's sort of famous. Tony Lombardi.
He sounds like a trumpet player.
His name is Tony Lombardi. I think he sounds like a football player.
No. I think he sounds like a trumpet player.
This is an argument maybe we should have after the show.
I don't think it's an important argument. So yeah, please like, share, subscribe. Let everybody know because next week is going to be really interesting, especially because it's such an epidemic that it's not being talked about. Like there are small groups of people and people affected by it that are talking about it, but it's something that needs more attention. And yeah, I guess we'll start there.
Yeah, join us.
And in the meantime, have meaningful conversations. We'll see you.